Good evening, everyone. Hi, how are you doing? Welcome to the Entrepreneur's Kitchen. This is episode number 32, unbelievable but true. And I'm really, really happy to have Michaela Aue at the other end of the line. Hello, Michaela, how are you doing?
I'm good. Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. So, Michaela, you are not only a yoga guru, I think you're not, underestimating your influence in the yoga community in German-speaking countries. You are a yoga influencer, yoga guru, and also a branding consultant. And we want to talk about all of that. And I think, what you're doing has probably never been more relevant than it is right now. And I also want to talk about how practicing yoga online is actually having an influence on people, and how is that even possible? We've been having musicians at Entrepreneur's Kitchen the recent days, and it was really interesting because it's such a difficult thing to transport the meaning of music with all this shitty audio quality we usually have in the streaming services. So your perspective is again a very different and very interesting one. But before we go into detail, I want to know what you're going to be preparing for us. And even before that, I also want to let people know that they can ask you questions about all sorts of things, starting with, building up your brand, becoming an influencer, and the yoga practice and mindfulness, but also, all sorts of other things, eating habits and things like that. On Slido, we're open for questions under 91327. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot us your questions on Slido 91327. So, Michaela, welcome again.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Satnam, as we say in Punjabi.
Yeah, well, what is your relationship with food? Because I know that yogis are very obsessed about food.
I love food. You know what? And the funny thing was, I was thinking about two things since, I am only allowed to do 3 ingredients. And I just asked Billy like half an hour before we started. And I was like, do you think I can go for the chocolate peanut butter sandwiches that I usually do? And he looked at me and he was like, that doesn't count as food. And I was like, sure it does. I'm not gonna do that, but definitely, I mean, chocolate is definitely a very important part of my, eating habits. And other than that, like, I don't know, it's been a long journey, quite frankly, from, like growing up and like the eating habits in our family. And, like my mom used to make everything herself. And then the 90s happened. And then, like we were bombarded with all of like the canned and pre-prepared foods. And frankly, I remember the first time she made this like pre-made potato mash kind of thing. And my sister and I, we looked at her and we were like, what the hell is that? And she was like, that's mashed potatoes. We were like, no, it's not. So that was interesting. And then, I mean, honestly, like moving out of the house, I just went back to making everything myself. So I love cooking. And I do it very intuitively. So most of the time, I mean, yes, I would say we eat relatively healthy. There is definitely chocolate and cake and that coming in. Like we have pizza days, like once a month or once every other month or something like that. But I just love to do simple things with very few ingredients. And I just love to prepare things myself because then I know what's actually in them and I'm not, being exposed to everything that's out there.
Absolutely. Well, you definitely look extremely healthy. So obviously you're doing something right. So what are you preparing tonight?
Tonight, we're going to do something very simple. It's my favorite lunch thing that we've been doing over the quarantine. It's just like a simple omelette with some avocado. So it's super easy. So it's really just 2 eggs, 1 avocado, and a little bit of lemon. And that's all we need. Like that's it. And then, I mean, sometimes if I do it for us for lunch, sometimes I put tomatoes in or other kind of vegetables. Like I love any of these leafy greens, I'm not quite familiar with the English word, but mangold in German, you know, pak choi. That
Oh,
kind
I
of
think,
stuff.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so I throw that in sometimes, but it's super easily made. It goes fast, you know, and even though one would think now that we're all at home, you know, we have so much time on our hands, and I'm just wondering how I was able to manage life before because there's never time.
I know. It's really incredible, especially, you know, we had 2 kids, and I'm like, wow, now I understand why the schools are made for.
I can only imagine.
Absolutely. Well, you know, we're also both dog owners, so it's like, wow, look at this. Yeah. Well, I'm going for all what kind of healthy. Yeah, except the sugar.
Okay, I mean, a little sugar never hurts, right?
Well, I'm going to be using some powdered sugar, not too much, a little. 2 eggs
Yeah.
and some almonds.
Ah, so you're making dessert basically.
I'm making cookies. Yeah, this was
Oh,
my cookie week, so I've been making cookies all the time. So, but this is a cool recipe, and since I'm doing this every night, I need something I can repeat without being it too obvious. So, so you can take 2 eggs and some sugar and put whatever in it. It's always going to taste well. So if I go on mute for a couple of seconds, so don't worry, because I will be mixing.
mixing.
You know, this is the exactly. So that's not a very lovely noise. So, but Michaela, I mean, I find it so fascinating. You helped me already with, you know, building up my Instagram following, and you have so many people who are so you know, influenced by you. How did that even happen? What was the initial event?
That's a very good question. I kind of again blame it on my mom. She seems to be responsible for many things in my life in a way.
Bad food into. I'm
I mean,
hoping that she's not watching.
well, I don't. Her English is not so well, so she may not.
Oh well.
So no, I mean, honestly, like I moved out of the house when I was like 18, and I moved to Berlin, and the first 6 months were kind of hard, you know, because I come from a teeny tiny town, so moving to the like quote unquote big city was definitely a big change. And then I just remember coming home and I was stressed out by everything, you know, and I started studying. I mean, I started studying 3 different things and then like stopped them all. And my mom was like, oh my God, she's going to end up underneath the bridge. Like I was not the perfect child. But what she said to me when I came home, she was like, well, if you're so stressed, why don't you go do yoga? I heard, you know, like that's going to help calm people down. Right. And that was back in 2001. So it's
Oh
been,
wow.
yeah, it's been a really long time. And that was, I think, probably the first time in my life that I ever listened to her. So I went back to Berlin. I talked to some friends. No, seriously. I mean, again, I was not an easy child, but I listened, and then I talked to some friends. I found an amazing yoga studio that I stayed with for the first 9 years of my practice, actually. And then honestly, it's like there's been, ever since my first class, and it sounds ridiculous and so cliche, but that's just what it was. There was this tiny little voice saying, you know what? If nothing works out, I'm just going to become a yoga teacher and like open this tiny little studio by the beach, you know, and I'm done. Like that's going to be it. Mm-hmm. And then yoga just stayed, you know, and my practice developed, and I've met so many teachers. And a couple of years ago, I think 7 or 8 years ago, my friends started asking me, and they were like, don't you want to start teaching? And I'm like, I don't know, do I? I'm not sure if I want to. And then a friend of mine, he has a beautiful photo studio in Berlin. So he offered to open it every Saturday for us to practice. And then I just started teaching before I even had a certificate. And my friends came, and, you know, like it was like this Saturday meetup morning thing. Everyone would bring some food because I didn't accept any money back then, because I was like, look, I'm not even like, I don't even know what I'm doing here. So if you come and you give me feedback and you bring food and we can have breakfast afterwards, that's great. And then, you know, like I did one training and I did the next training and another one. And then all of a sudden I started teaching, and now I teach at Soho House if it ever opens again. And I had my own studio for a while until the lease ended and, you know, gentrification happened and we had to move out of the space. So, and now it's like online yoga and meditation, and voila, here we are.
I mean, as long as people come to you and they want to learn from you, why would you even need a certificate?
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I don't know how it is in your country. In Germany, they really like certificates. That's for sure. It's like Germans.
Yeah, even if, I mean, when you want to sell shoes, I know you have to go through an education about selling shoes in Germany. They're obsessed about these things. But you know, I always say that the only permit you actually need is the permit you give to yourself, and the rest.
It's true. And the thing is, you know, it's, I mean, I teach a lot of Kundalini yoga, and they say, and I'm sure you've heard that before from other areas. They say if you do something for like a certain amount of time, you have like quote unquote mastered it. And I mean, that's what it is. Like I have this obsession with learning. I've not in school. I did not have that obsession in school. School was terrible for me, and I was like a bad student. But ever since then, like whenever, like from the moment I could start learning whatever I wanted to learn and whatever interested me, I just have this obsession, and I need to dive really deep because I just need to understand.
But I'm a parent too, right? I'm thinking about my girls, one of them coming to me and saying, you know, I'm just going to throw away everything and I really burned for yoga. I'm going to start my life as a yoga teacher. What I would do is I would tell them, go ask Michaela. And then, you know, but I mean, not everyone is able to, I mean, joke aside, right? Not everyone is able to, there are so many yoga teachers, but there is only one Michaela Aue. So how is that possible? You know, I'm no kidding. I mean, you know, there are like gazillions of them.
No, I think, you know what, I had so many great teachers growing up because I basically did grow up with them for the last almost 20 years of my life. And one of my dearest teachers, she always said to me, she was like, don't just build your life on yoga, always make sure that you have other income streams, right? So that's also where the whole communications, the podcast, everything, all of that comes in. And then you just have to make a choice, right? Like what you want to do and what you want to offer and what kind of service you want to give to other people. And for me, it's like I just love the faces of people after a yoga class, you know, like when they come out of Shavasana and it's just like this pure bliss moment. And in the end, I feel like I'm not doing anything. I thought it was very nice of you to call me a guru. You know, I'm like, you're your own guru. I'm just here to guide you. I can give you some options. You can try some things out, but then it's your experience and you have to take out of it whatever you need, you know, and you cannot take everything for granted. What I'm saying, you also have to question the things and you have to experience them for yourself. And I think even though there are so many yoga teachers, it's like, also, let's face it, most of us, we have the same message, right? We want the same things for humanity and for the people that come practice, but we all package the message a little different and we all use different wording and different language. And you just automatically attract the people that need to hear your message. So I'm not even worrying about it all so much. I'm just like putting out there whatever comes to my mind, basically. I know, you know, like where I make my life worthwhile, or I know where my income comes in so that I can survive. And then I'm just sitting here, you know, like talking, blah, blah, blah. And people come and then also they leave again, because at some point, you know, I mean, I have the same thing with teachers that I've been following for years. And then at some point I've learned everything I needed to learn. And then you move on to the next. And I think if people and also like quote unquote teachers understand that and are aware of that, you also get out of this mindset of like, oh my God, like there's so much competition and, you know, like what do I have to do? And I need to do this, I need to do that. because it's just the natural flow, and then new people will come in and others will leave because you've done the same. And I think that's super important. So
I mean, but letting go is not easy. It requires a lot of practice, right? You must be seeing it all the time. I don't know, how many burnout syndrome patients you already have in your practice, but also in general. What do you think about this whole crisis in terms of practicing mindfulness and practicing letting go?
I mean, this is the moment to do it, right? If not now, I mean, it's like I'm just gonna turn on the stove really quickly because otherwise this is never gonna happen. It's difficult, right? Because I feel I'm definitely aware that I'm in a sort of like privileged situation right here. We have a beautiful place, like I have a boyfriend, I have a dog, like we have savings, like we'll get supported, we can still make some money, like I've been on this track for the better part of my life. So I know that other people are definitely dealing with other things, and with like way more money issues, and that's like that is worse because that's really what's putting you down. But yeah, in the end, I mean, if I take all of that aside and if I come back to like I call it my naive kind of state that I'm in ever since this happened, I do think this is probably for the best for all of us, and I do think that it is the sign that in Kundalini Yoga, we say we went from the Piscean to the Aquarian age, right? The Aquarian age is all about like you being your own guru, and that all the teaching, everything is available and you have access to everything. And you just have to make an experience with it. And you have to learn that you have to listen to your inner voice, or what we call intuition, or whatever you want to call it, like take the name that works for you and that resonates with you. And this, I mean, even though like we've moved fully into the Aquarian age in 2012, I feel like there is still a big part of the population that obviously hasn't, right? And this is the time where, again, we're just being forced to move into that and to go within and to inquire within who we actually are, who we want to be, how we want to live, what you said, what we want to let go of. And you can practice letting go like with really simple things. All of my friends, everyone is cleaning their apartments. They're all getting rid of furniture, of clothing, like of all the stuff that they're like, oh my God, I have like 15 shirts. Who in the hell needs 15 shirts? And that's already practicing letting go, because some people are not able to do that. So, and then, it's in yoga and meditation, it's also like this idea of not being attached to things, and realizing that you're not, I mean, I always say like, you're not going to die, like if you don't own the shirt, you're not going to die, like there's no open heart surgery, anything, like you'll be fine. You come out on the other side. And this is where the practice comes in, like especially meditation, when you just sit and you come into the practice of observing your thoughts and taking your mind and actually putting it to good use, because the mind is just there to keep you safe. So obviously the mind doesn't want to let go because it doesn't know what happens after letting go, right? So also, if people talk about the ego and put it out so negative, I don't find the ego very negative. I like the ego. When I'm on a crossroad and I want to cross a red line and my ego says, don't do that, I like it very much. Thank you for keeping me safe. However, when I'm in a situation where I know that I should be jumping the cliff because probably something exciting is happening, I have to train my mind, my ego, to just shut up and let me do what my body and my intuition knows is better for me to do, right? And I feel like the situation right now, it's exactly what we can learn. And I just really hope that it starts resonating with people, and that even though you have the children at home, and even though it is going to be messy and there is like lots of stress and you might be worried about your job, maybe you can create the headspace to look at all of these things from a different perspective, because that's what we need to do. We need to shift the perspective of how we look at things, so that we are able to take the next step. Because I mean, we all saw it. It like we couldn't have gone on like this any longer.
Absolutely, no, totally agreed. And you definitely need headspace if you have kids at home right now. Well, there are already questions, Michaela. So, what motivates you as a yogi?
What motivates me as a yogi? Clarity and calmness. I think those are my two favorite things. I just love to be clear in my mind. Like, I love to know where I want to go, and then like if I know how and where, I just know how to get there. And while doing that, I don't like drama anymore. I think we all had drama in our 20s, and it was amazing and it was so useful. And then ever since I turned 30, I was like, I'm done. Like, no more drama. Like, it's too stressful. I don't want to do that anymore.
Absolutely. I totally agreed. Absolutely agreed. Does yoga practice need imagination?
I think everything in life needs imagination, right? I mean, if you keep on doing the same thing over and over again, I think it gets a little bit boring, and you can be very imaginative, you know, with your body and figuring out and really tuning in and listening, right? And finding out what works for you and what feels good. And yeah, definitely.
So does everyone have to find their own way, or should I follow the way of my master?
Well, okay, look, if we go back to the Piscean age, then you would follow your master. If we really are in the Aquarian age, I would say follow your master and then make your own experience and start questioning if that resonates with you in the right way. And if it does, amazing, then keep on following. And if you feel like, I'm missing something, or I want to try something else, or try something new, then go and try something new. I mean, it's always good. I have many teachers that I'm listening to, but I'm not dogmatically following them, right? I also start questioning certain things. And if some things like don't resonate with me, then I'm like, oh, okay, so that doesn't resonate, check, you know, and I just notice. And that's all you need to do. But you have everything. I mean, again, it sounds so cliche, but you have everything within yourself. It's all there.
So what does it mean to question something in the yoga practice?
So let's say, I mean, we have all these, you know, like there's all kinds of concepts, you know, and all kind of books and lectures and everything. And for me, it's just like, hold on. Of course.
You know, once I was almost burning down the kitchen. Yeah.
Not gonna look so pretty, but it's gonna be okay. So for me, it's like I have one of my favorite Kundalini yoga teachers. He gives me meditations, because in Kundalini yoga we have like all these meditations for like every part of your life, right? No matter what you're dealing with, like I'm sure there's a meditation or a yoga set for it. And sometimes if I'm not sure, I'll talk to him and then he gives me something and then I'll try it. But I'm not just blindly trying it. Like I'm present while I'm trying it, and then I'm figuring out, and sometimes they work and sometimes I'm like, you know what, this isn't the one for me, and then maybe I find something else. Because meditations and yoga practice, it also just comes to you, you know, if you're looking for it and you really want it in your life, then it comes in all kinds of funny ways. You just have to be a little bit awake and aware. But also, you know, like let's say the concept of not being attached to things, you know, concept of ego, all that kind of stuff, you know, like concept of in manifestation, when everyone goes on about positive thinking, you know, like start questioning that. Like we can't just think positive all the time, and it's like in my world at least, I'm like, it's fine if we don't, because if we have negative thoughts and we have emotions towards something, we should feel them and then we should let them go. And then, you know, you can you can be positive again. But it's these little things. Don't just blindly take what people tell you, you know, like try to find a way to make it your own, like read, research, find what resonates, and then
But I mean, when you think about it, I think it looks like a lot of people have a different idea of what yoga is than what yoga really is. So you know, when you think about it, it's also in terms of your, you know, bodily engagement, it's actually quite difficult. So you kind of have to be fit as well, to be able to. But how can you go through so much pain and relax at the same time? You know, you probably know exactly what I mean.
I mean, that's also the thing. We have so many different types of yoga, right? You can do, like, everyone knows the vinyasa yoga with like the music. And I just want to put it out there. When I started practicing, there was no music in classes, right? They were silent, like that, like the whole party thing didn't happen. Which is fine. I mean, not that I'm not loving it, you know. And then we have Kundalini yoga, what I practice and teach a lot, where you repeat a certain movement for a certain amount of time, and that definitely gets painful. I just taught a class last week and I had people sit like this with the arms extended out to the side for 5 minutes. Yeah, it gets painful, but you know what, in the end it's also just your mind telling you it's painful because you're in it and you don't know when it stops, right?
Yeah.
And this is again where it comes in also.
Sounds like my birth class.
Yeah, it's a process, right? And we go through processes and phases in life, and we don't always know when they stop. And this is how we learn how to stay with the process, observe, engage or not, and then move out of it, because we know at some point it's going to be over.
Mm-hmm. Is there a yoga practice where you cannot identify at all? I mean, I recently heard about laughter yoga, laughing yoga. How do you call it? I don't even know. I mean, it didn't look funny to me at all, but
I mean, yeah, there's everything, you know, like they have beer yoga, which I totally do not understand. I'm like, really, guys, I don't get that at all.
It's a German invention, or not? It must be a German.
I'm not sure.
It's an Oktoberfest invention.
Or maybe it was, or maybe it was Australian. I don't know. It came from somewhere. And I mean, there's one thing that I'm not a big fan of, but that was also just the experience. I'm not a big fan of the hot yoga thing, because my experience was that there was this teacher and he was wearing this tiny little Speedo, and other than that, he was naked. And he was sweating all over, obviously, because it's hot yoga. And then he started counting down from 10 to 1. And I was like, am I doing yoga or am I in boot camp right now? I'm not sure. And that was not what I was personally looking for. You know, for other people, that might be great. If you really just want to go there for the workout, like that's the place to go. But I was like, really counting down from 10. I was like,
no, yeah. That's I mean, I know a couple of people who wanted to probably try the beer yoga thing. That's hilarious. Yeah. Well, but I know also that you're teaching yoga now online. So let's talk about that kind of experience, because it must be quite crazy different. How do you get the message over? How do you get people really to concentrate? So tell me about it.
It's really been an interesting experience. I do have to say, I do corporate yoga classes, and one of my corporate clients, they were actually the first ones, right in the first week of quarantine, they were the first ones to say, okay, let's do this on Zoom. And it was good for me to try it out that way, because that was a group of people that I already knew and loved. And I was like, sure, if you guys, I mean, they're into video conferencing anyways, they do that all day long, so why not do it with yoga? And we tried that, and I was actually surprised of how well it works. And then I just started doing my own classes Tuesdays and Saturdays. And it's been I mean, yeah, the first 2 times I was definitely nervous also because we do it on Zoom and then you have these small little windows. And I mean, obviously, if you participate, you can either keep the video on or you can put it off. Then I had one class with the corporate kind where everyone had the screens black and I was like, guys, I mean, I get it, but seriously, like now I'm just being a self-entertainer here and I see all of these black screens and that's not very nice. Let's not do that again. But most of the time it's really, I mean, I can still see a little bit what everyone's doing and people are actually loving it. And I honestly, like after a couple of times, I got into the whole thing myself because it's, first of all, let's be frank, it's super practical for everyone. We do the Thursday class from 7 to 8 in the morning. No matter if you're doing home office or if you would have to go out after, nobody's going to show up in a yoga studio at 7. If you roll out of your bed 6:45, you roll out the mat and you're right there. And then you have your own shower, you get your own coffee and you're ready to go for your day. It's the perfect time and the perfect place. There's no excuse. I always prepare a playlist for everyone. So then everyone is on mute and you can have your own playlist running at home.
Okay.
So, which is nice, or you cannot, like if you want to do your yoga in silence, like that's absolutely up to you. And then we always do a little check-in in the beginning and everyone says hi and then we practice together and then we do a little check out and then we chat afterwards a little bit, and send little messages and stuff. And it is kind of nice because I do feel this way, it sounds crazy, but I have more time for everyone because exactly, like who was there. And then you can send out messages, and checking in with people how they're doing and everything. So it gets personal on a different level because if I go in the studio, then I have to go out because then the next course comes and then everyone's like, okay, bye. And you're not, you're not having this check-in because you also don't have so much time. And yeah, of course, if you're in the group, in the room and you're feeling the energy, that's definitely missing a little bit. But if like when I teach in a normal situation, I barely practice myself. I'm more adjusting and talking and walking through everything. And now that I'm doing it in front of the screen, I practice while I talk. And this is what I realized. Like if I start tuning into myself, I can still feel everyone else. Because by now I know all of them because they keep on coming back. So you can tune in, who's pregnant, who, like had something with the spine, and you can be more aware. And so it works way better than I would have expected, I have to say.
That's really interesting. And how important is it that you really know the people in the room, actually, personally?
I mean, I just like that, I'm just that type of person. If I go to my favorite coffee shop, they know my name and I just love it. It just makes me feel a bit more special. And I think, I mean, of course, I don't know their life stories or anything, but, like it's easier to remember the names because you can also see them on the little screen because I'm very bad with names, and then when you chat with them before or after a little bit, you just get to know a few more things. And it makes it a bit more personal. And I feel like growing a community, it just works that way. You have to have that personal level.
And I mean, you were